Got it. Whatever.
There it is. All right. We have to do that every time now. It's tradition. Uh,
Okay.
welcome everybody to episode 3. And we are going to get into some more fun content. But before we do, Lindsay, let me ask you a question. And this is a question for you and the listeners, watchers, listeners. Um, how do you experience yourself being versus doing?
Okay, when you ask that,
Mhm.
how do you experience like do you mean how do you know when to charge forward and do versus knowing when to allow yourself to sit back and be and receive?
Yes.
Okay. For me, it's a physical sensation within my being. Um, it's almost like a charge within my gut. Um, a little below my solar plexus, so almost navel chakra, sex chakra area. Um, it's like a growing sensation to like to charge forward and to get into action. I also become very like from like here up, it's very clear, and I just know what to do. Um,
Mhm.
and then when I experience my body needing to pull back and to allow myself to open up and receive, like my breathing becomes deeper, and it's almost like I do physically pull back a bit, and my movements slow down, and I can actually feel my heart center expand. So
That's really cool.
I'm
So,
just very connected to my energy as well as my physical body.
yeah. So it's a very somatic, intrinsic experience.
Very, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
very.
Yeah. That's that's really cool. And we all experience that differently, but I'm sure people will resonate with what you just said. The I know I did because I can feel it in my body too. It usually resides in my gut too, and the the doing, yeah, it feels like this, like almost like something pulling me, but it's like pulling me from the inside. I'm being like magnetized to the whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
And then the being, I love how you described like it's almost like you literally pull back and the breath is deeper and it feels like going from like a myopic view of things to a panoramic view.
Mhm.
Like you're seeing more, like I see more when I'm like allowing in being.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And I asked this question because there's such a conditioning to do like constantly. Like we are
Yeah.
addicted to doing,
Yeah.
right? And people, as a therapist and I'm in for you as a healer, like we guide people to be a whole lot.
Yeah.
Like that's such a central piece in the work that we do in North Node. Like the allowing, how many times do we say the word allowing in the group? Right? Like it's constant. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, even last week I talked about the amount of effort that it takes to pull back to allow myself to receive sometimes is yeah, it takes a lot of effort sometimes. And other times it's really easy. It just depends on how how the flow is going. How in alignment am I?
Right. Yeah. Ooh, say more.
Well, if I'm in a state of resistance, if I want to charge forward and be in my masculine energy and go and do, it's going to be a lot harder to be in the state of flow. It's
Yeah.
going to cause myself to expend a lot more energy.
Yes.
Same thing in the opposite direction. If I am wanting to be lazy and just not do anything, it's gonna take a lot more effort and energy to charge forward and be in my masculine energy to get shit done.
Totally.
Yeah, you can be in resistance in either end of that spectrum.
That is so true. Yeah. And as you're talking, I think about the the motivations behind like doing things. Like what is actually motivating you to do the thing, right? Is it if we boil it down to like fear versus love, right? And conditioning versus like what your heart truly feels and wants. Those are very different spaces. Very different spaces. And so like even the conscious work of being aware of what's the intention that I have or where is my energy coming from, right? Because that can be unconscious and you can be doing something and then you're like, oh man, I am exhausted. Why am I exhausted? Like I'm doing something that I should enjoy, right?
Right. Yeah, how do you know that you're in alignment and following your soul's purpose versus following your ego's desire? Um,
Mm,
like how do you know?
very big question.
Any answer?
Let me just get my crystal ball in here.
Let me pull out my soul contract.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me just look at that real quick. Talk to my spirit
Unravel that
guides.
scroll.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, spirit guides, can you come in? Can we interview you, please?
Department for the committee. Listen, what I well really in all honesty is that I have found that when I am living out of my alignment, I'm exhausted and I become sick and frustrated and it feels like my feet are moving through concrete, wet concrete. Like they're it's so much harder to create forward momentum. But when I'm in alignment and I've got a good balance of allowing and doing, like I feel energized. Like I have a lot of energy throughout the day and I'm able to get a lot more accomplished and
Mm,
I'm able to actually rest because I find myself in a state of no, I'm listening to my intuition. I'm not pursuing my ego's desires or like I'm not resisting the
mm.
messages that I'm receiving from spirit either. So it's like, okay, so how do you arrive to that state? How do you allow yourself to listen to your intuition? Um, you fail a lot. I failed a lot, a
Yeah,
lot.
yes.
Like I got hit by 2x4s by the universe over and over and over again because I just wasn't listening. It was like I wasn't. I was like, no, I'm not. Like I had the intention of listening, but yet I wasn't. I was overriding my intuition, overriding my body. Like I would inside, I would be like, oh no, that's it.
Yeah,
Keep my eye on that because that's what my intuition is saying. But in the real world, I would go and do the other thing.
right.
Like, no, 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 I see that. My intuition says that. I'm acknowledging that. Inside, I know that that's the truth.
Mm,
But here in the body, I'm going to go do that thing. I don't want to do that.
right. Yeah. Oh man, there's so much there that you just said. So, so you were saying that you can tend to get sick,
Mhm.
drained. Um, I know I've experienced like anxiety, high anxiety, if I'm not in alignment or not listening to what I know to be true or
Yeah.
trusting it. Um, Depression.
Oh yeah, that's big.
Yeah. Uh, there's trying to think of like just an experience that I had so we can get more into like we can get deeper into it.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm queer and me initially exploring my sexuality uh looked like just me conceptually like thinking about it, right? Initially. Like, huh, that's interesting. Do I find women attractive? Right? And then I'd see like pretty women. And then I would go to my therapist, and this was a therapist in grad school that I was seeing. And she actually shamed me. I had an experience of shame, being shamed for exploration inside of the session, right? So she basically said, "Oh, this has a lot to do with your upbringing and how your father wasn't there for you, and a few other traumas that I experienced. One of them being I was molested when I was 4 years old. And so she like pathologized me as I was just like newly exploring this very vulnerable thing.
Yeah.
And that made me retreat
Yeah.
back into myself and not talk about it. Not, I mean, I still like was conceptually like reflecting on it, but it was just such an internal experience. And then, and so I had my truth,
Yeah.
but I was so scared of it.
Yeah.
And then I have this external, you know, this person saying, that's not right. You are exploring something that's based on this trauma. And so basically like invalidating my truth.
Yeah.
And so I retreated because I was so scared and I wasn't listening to myself. And
Mhm.
for good reason, like such compassion for that version of myself. She did her very best with what she had. And then, I finally like found a therapist that was super affirming, super supportive, and she was like, "You should explore this." And we dove into it, and then I started dating women, came out as bisexual initially, and then, to my parents, and they also pathologized it initially. So again, I retreated back into myself.
Your parents are both therapists.
Yes. Yes. They didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Um, and so retreated back, didn't listen to myself again.
Yeah.
Confessed my love to a best friend of mine. And initially it seemed fine, but then she rejected me as a friend. Again, retreated back,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so there's this push-pull inside of me happening as I move through this journey of, understanding what is this for me?
Yeah.
Right? And then I decided to go back on the dating apps, put it as like both for men and women. Meet a man, start dating him, and was fully transparent with him. I'm bisexual. But there was this aspect of I really wanted to just be accepted.
Yeah.
And so it was another sort of retreating back into myself. And, my family loved him and I was approved of and all sorts of things, right?
Yeah, so you made decisions that weren't good for you
Right.
because finally you're getting the acceptance that you were so longing for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yet knowing, like, still knowing so deeply that I really wanted to like date women. Like my first kiss with a woman was like, whoa, like there's something there for me.
Yeah.
That feels really in alignment with who I am and like the love that lives inside of me.
Mhm.
And so, it was just like this back and forth of this feels so true to me, and yet so many things people around me are saying that that's not true, or I'm believing that it's not true on some level, or I'm too scared to like fully put myself in the place of this is my truth, right?
Or it's that perception of other people know you better than you know yourself.
Yeah.
Fuck
Uh,
that.
that, yeah,
Whenever I hear whenever I hear somebody that I'm dating say that, I'm like, okay, motherfucker. Sure.
yeah, yeah, sure, right.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Make sure.
yeah. And so,
So let me can we go back a bit? So I'm really sorry that you had so many experiences of you coming to the table with your truth and saying this is who I am, this is my truth. And people saying, no, that's not your truth. Put that away.
yeah, yeah,
That's not you. Let's unravel that. Let's talk therapy through that shit.
yes,
That's also part of the issues that we have discussed on the side of like some of the pros and cons of talk therapy. This would be a con. Also, like I know that we've discussed this on the side, but also want to hold space for that little girl, that 4-year old you that was molested. That should not. The fact that shit like that happens is like, I'm really sorry.
thank you. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's it's really sad. I did a lot of I don't even call it work. It's more of like really holding that memory in such a loving way, that trauma in such a loving way. And yeah, I mean there's so much there, but
How do you do that? How do you hold that?
Mhm.
How do you hold that in love? How do you do that?
It can look like a lot of different things. Sometimes it's just being and sitting and going internal and finding where in my body that little me lives and
Yeah.
holding her, like like really holding her. Um, and you've coached me in that, and that's been so wonderful. And then there's been times where journaling is super helpful, just like writing it out, writing the thoughts, feelings, anything that, my younger self wants to express. And um, then there's moments of like, I need to go ground outside, or, and I know I'm not alone in this, people who have experienced sexual abuse before or at age 4, even like 5, 6, but especially earlier on, so much of the memory is in our body, and we
Yeah.
don't have language for when things come up. And so that's the really like tricky part of like I'm experiencing something in my body and I believe it's tied to this, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And in actuality, that doesn't even matter. Like it just matters like being with it.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it can make things experiences in your body like really challenging.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like being sick, it can trigger stuff from that. Like any sort of like scary sensations in the body, like it can be amplified because of that like unprocessed trauma. So yeah, I feel like it's I've done so much with it, and it's evolved and changed, and it's how do I language this? It's I accept it and love it, and it's not scary to me anymore. Like earlier on, it was like this very scary, intense thing, and I didn't know how to like basically reparent myself and work
Yeah.
with my own intensity
Right.
and let that be okay. And now
Right.
it's okay,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, there was a molestation at the age of 7, and I couldn't remember it, but felt so much shame in viewing my nude reflection
Mm,
and couldn't understand.
yeah,
And then I couldn't remember it until I was like 13 or 14 years old. And as soon as the memory started to come back, like I started to really shut down, like
yeah,
really shut down. And did a whole lot of work to come back to a place of like feeling a sense of safety within my body.
yeah.
Fast forward, I'm in a massive car accident, walk away with a traumatic brain injury, and have to do the
Right.
same things over and over again. And it's like, oh, okay, like
Yeah,
I was just sharpening my tools in the tool shed to be able to do the work with the brain injury.
right.
But my last, not my last relationship, but the one before this most recent one, um, you know, uh, okay, in a previous relationship experienced sexual trauma and then had to do the work again. And it was like, okay, at what at what point am I going to be done with
Right.
this? How do I know that I've healed from it? How do I know that I'm no longer going, like that nothing within my energetic field is going to attract any sort of scenario to be able to have to work through the same thing again? How do I know when I'm done?
Right. That's a great question. Yeah. How do you know when you've worked something through or you've integrated something in a way that allows you to move through life with more ease?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's such an interesting question because, right, like growth isn't linear.
Right.
And so there's like ebbs and flows. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
More like a spiral of like, okay,
Yeah.
if you show up with the intention to work through it, you know that you'll be up leveling. But like when you come back around to that point, it's like, oh, you get to view it through a different lens of perspective.
Right.
Which also then leads me to my next question of like, who am I if I'm not doing a deep dive on trauma? Right? Like I've oh my God, I've been working on personal development and healing deep rooted trauma. And as soon as I understood generational epigenetics, it was like I hardcore just began like this deep rooted healing journey of like who am I if I'm not consciously on that path of I'm going to heal emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually? Like, how do you know when you're done?
Yeah, I don't know if you're ever done. I mean, right? Like,
I think it's more I think it's more of like that there's always more. That
there's
there's
always,
always a perspective.
yeah.
Like Van Gogh's The Starry Night
Mhm.
like stays the same, but I continue to go back to that painting to
Exactly.
as I see something new or I see a different perspective because I'm the one who has changed.
Right. That's it. That I wanted to go back to that because I believe that so much of integration is when you have gone through something and you have space from it, and then you are you have experiences that then support you to create a different pattern or a different perspective. You integrate these new pieces of you, and then like you were saying, like you look back on the thing, whatever the memory or trauma or whatever, and you see it through a new lens. I mean, that is so much of EMDR trauma work is you go back into your childhood, for example, and you are looking through the lens of the adult you.
Mhm.
And you're pulling what you presently and have experienced maybe throughout your adulthood, evidence that things are different, and you pull that back into your childhood, and then you bring your childhood into your adulthood, and it's like an integration. It's like this dance of your adult self and your younger self. Like for example, like when I was processing the molestation, if if I didn't have me well, it was me at 21. If I didn't have me at 21, who had had many more experiences than my 4-year-old self, to understand in a felt experiential way, oh, I do have support. Oh, I do have loving friends. Oh, I have like the capacity to do hard things or overcome something because look at the evidence, right? In between 4 and 21. And so then I was able to recognize that in a felt sense and go back to my 4-year-old self and support her in that very difficult, confusing, violating trauma.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
changed then my experience, my story of that little 4-year-old self,
Yeah.
right? Because trauma says, I'm damaged. Integrating it and healing from it says, oh man, that was really painful. And I was so resilient. And thank God I was fragmented and compartmentalized pieces of me because I needed to do that in order to just move forward from that trauma. And now I can pull those pieces back together and integrate that little one inside of me. And she doesn't have to feel alone. And then
Mhm.
simultaneously, I don't feel alone because I did
Mhm.
that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this idea of you said it earlier to reparent yourself.
Hmm.
And I how I've sort of like workshopped this with my clients is that imagine you're holding a puppy
Hmm.
or a baby or a kitten, right? Like it's so much easier to love the other
Yeah.
outside of yourself. Imagine that you're holding something else.
Mhm.
And then very slowly shift, you know where I'm going, shift into
Yeah.
holding yourself as a baby. You're
That's
holding yourself as a 4-year-old. you're holding yourself as a 7-year-old and you're showering your inner child with so much love and sweetness and tenderness.
Yeah. Mm.
And then and then when you feel that vibrational shift within you, like then begin to anchor it into your body and embody it. And it might take like 25, 30, 50, 75 times of doing that
Yeah.
before you might actually feel a difference. But let me tell you, when you continue to show up with the intention of, okay, we're going to do this. I don't know how many times it's going to, but that's commitment and that's consistency, especially like when you grew up without consistency,
Yes.
when you grew up without that confidence of that parent saying like, I'm going to love you no matter what,
Right.
right? Like black sheep finger was always pointed at me. You're wrong. You're wrong. But actually, like, I truly believe that I just incarnated into my family to like be the sounding alarm, being like, shit, it's fucked up. What are you all doing?
Wee, wee, wee. Yeah.
Literally. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, we really got off course here.
Yeah. Let's course correct real quick. Yeah.
Right? Like, okay.
That's
But
that's such a beautiful exercise. I was feeling it, like I felt it as you were saying it. Yeah.
to re-parent yourself.
Yes. Yes.
And then to reiterate that you were never broken.
Right.
You were never broken. I was never broken. Ever. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm beautiful the way that I am. You're beautiful the way that you are. People at home, you're beautiful the way that you are. You were never broken.
Yeah.
You just weren't quite given the tools to really like effectively navigate the emotion that we've been all suppressing down. And believe me, those emotions that we've been suppressing down have been like 17 generations long, minimum.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right? Like
Yeah.
the stuff that we all have been carrying is like minimum 17 generations.
Yeah.
Trauma, the repressed stuff of like no emotions or energy in motion.
Yeah.
You actually move through them so much faster if you give yourself the space to feel them.
Hmm.
Is it fun to feel? No, not always. Sometimes it's like what in episode 1 I was like, I don't like you right now, but I love you.
Yes. That's so true.
I'm not right. Like I was 100% honest of I don't like you right now, but I love you because I know that you had me do that because I needed to do it. I needed to
Yeah.
workshop it. I needed to let it go. I needed to acknowledge what I was feeling. Is
Yes.
that always fun? No. Sometimes it fucking sucks. It's
Yeah.
not comfortable. You don't feel good in the moment, but how do you feel after? You feel better.
Yeah.
You feel better after. Like just acknowledge that. Woo, that was a ride. I feel better now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you get to witness I mean, it really is humbling and beautiful to witness yourself in those moments. And I get that it's hard and that like thoughts come in, like these intense thoughts of like, oh, this is never gonna end. I'll always feel this way, right? Like our brain is gonna do that, especially initially when we're developing a different pattern of relating to our feelings. But when you get to a space, I remember having this moment of like crying and feeling my internal observer watch it and be like, this is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Like this pain that I feel,
Yeah.
there's love in this pain. Like there's in I feel like in any kind of emotion like that, like sorrow, joy, like any deep rooted feelings, if you can like look at it through the lens of love, it's so powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like in the deepest grief that I've experienced, believe me, I've had some doozies. Like I remember, yeah, for real. I remember, let's just be real.
Yeah.
I remember,
Love
I
it.
remember thinking like in the depth of like one example, like going through going through the divorce and feeling so utterly fucking alone. And grad school had just ended, and I had actually found my voice in grad school and actually had like good friends and needed to move across country. And suddenly, like, I'm living at my mom's and I'm taking care of my grandmother who has dementia. I can't find work, and I just felt so fucking raw and sitting in my mom's bathtub, just in deep prayer, like in deep meditative prayer of just like, I surrender. I know that this is a gift.
Yeah.
I don't know what is going to blossom from this shit show, but like,
Yeah.
I know that this is a gift.
Yeah.
Right. And as much as that experience sucked, and as much as that scenario was really fucked up. Like, I shouldn't have been taking care of my grandmother going through such a tumultuous
Yeah, that's
situation.
a lot.
Like, that was a little bit fucked up.
Yeah.
Okay. But at the same time, like I could view it as I'm taking care of the woman who raised me.
Right.
I'm showing this woman deep compassionate and love and
Mm.
consistency. Um, Even though she was like, or is, she's still hanging around. God bless her. Um, Even though she was a mean old lady. Like my whole life, she was mean. But
Yeah.
but it was, I viewed it through the lens of perspective of, I get to show this woman what love is. I
Mm.
get to show her, even in my own deep rooted pain and grief in my own way. Like, I'm still going to show up and I'm still going to love you.
Yeah.
And then in essence, like,
Mm.
that was sowing good karma
Mm.
for
Yeah.
when I needed it. And I am very grateful that
Mm.
I was able to give that to her. And I look back at that time and I'm like, man, that was just like a perfect pressure cooker for me to learn how to hold space for somebody
Wow. Yeah.
on days when I just didn't think I could hold space for myself.
Yeah.
And so I bring that level, that muscle
Hmm.
to facilitating.
Yeah.
Because there are some days where I was driving down to facilitate North Node and I was like, man, I don't know how I'm going to do it today. But I surrender and I'm going to trust that spirit is going to work through me and know exactly what to do.
Mm.
And every time at the end, it would be like, woo, man, I just showed up and spirit was just working through me because I don't know what just happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. Man. You're right, like those experiences in life, those pressure cookers really do like build that muscle of that capacity to love unconditionally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
also but also it really highlighted that like, oh, okay, this certain group of people or this person is not, you can't rely on this person, or this
Right.
person is not totally safe. Like, if you were questioning, maybe, maybe things would get better, it's like, no, that's an absolute hard line that that's just moving forward. It's just no. It's
Yeah.
a no. And that's a gift. That's a
Sure.
gift to discover.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. When you're saying pressure cooker, like for me, it was a different situation, right? Like, but I can understand the feeling that you had like when I was about to get divorced and deciding on the divorce versus staying married. And again, it was like this moment of, oh, do you want to retreat again? Or do you actually want to fully like step into your truth? And it
Yeah.
was so painful.
Yeah.
It was definitely like the dark night of the soul for me kind of
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
And I remember, like you were saying, sort of like resonating with what you're saying about like these moments of just feeling completely like lost and alone and in such sorrow. But it was like a, oh, this pattern really needs to die in me for me to like step into myself more. So sort of like an ego death, right? I need to
Yeah.
like move through this. And I can't bypass it. I have to like move through it.
Right.
And and I did that and it was so painful. And on the other side of that was this newfound joy and like honoring my truth in ways that I hadn't, like in the deepest sense of my truth,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
guess what?
What?
Because once you hear the whisper, there's no fucking escaping it.
No, there isn't. Like, it's so true. And
Not at all.
it was yelling. It was yelling at that point.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Yes. I do know. I
Yes,
do know.
you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is that if I'm really being honest, like I shouldn't have gotten married.
Mm,
I shouldn't have gotten married. I heard the whisper even on my wedding day and I was like,
yeah.
we don't have to do this.
Yeah.
We could just have a dinner and just go on a fun trip. We don't have to do this.
Isn't that so interesting though? Because like in a way you needed to do it to get that lesson. Like you needed to go through that. I needed to go through that like retreating and then pain, retreating
Just
pain.
to fully step into your truth with the
Yes.
level of what North Node and Aries, with the level of
Yes,
fuck, this
that.
is me. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. But let me explain something to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, yeah. Go for it.
Is that when I arrived in New Jersey and was living with my mom, and of course she had gossiped to all the neighbors, and the neighbors of course like had shit to say, and like everybody and their brother it seemed like had something to say to me, and it was like the amount of unsolicited advice that I was getting, like somebody saying to me, you know as soon as you see your husband, once you get back together with your husband, you need to be a slut for him, like, and I was like, okay. Me offering myself to my ex was not our issue. That is that
Like, ugh.
no, we're really gonna go here because
Yeah, yeah, no, do it. It's just like gross to me.
especially because so he decided that being with somebody else was easier than fixing the issue with me. That's fine. That's what he chose, like, and it created such a ripple effect that I know that he regrets. Okay. The narrative of a reason that a man would do that is because a woman doesn't offer herself to her husband. Actually, the issue in our marriage is that I had a higher sex drive and there was hardly any intimacy.
Hmm.
And I was the frustrated one.
Hmm?
I was the one who was like, okay, I'm like this is okay, cool. But the amount of unsolicited advice that I received, as
Right.
if I was like, and every single time I would lock eyes with the person, I would be like, that was not our issue because it wasn't.
Hmm.
But also, fuck you. But
Yeah.
also, like, none of your business.
Yeah. And
Like, none of your
way to
business.
make assumptions too.
Right.
Like, what?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Sex is layered and it's complex and
Totally.
it's so nuanced, and when you're with somebody that you've been with for almost a decade, like, but really, like, and I say this with so much love, my ex-husband just did not know how to receive and give love. Really. I hope that he has. I don't talk to him anymore. I hope that he has grown from that.
Yeah.
But when we were in that relationship, like I was left consistently going like, here, here's my heart. Like, let's do the thing. And then being met with a wall of like, okay, who's at fault? Me. I am. Because I consistently went to the table and made an offering and I was
Right.
being swept to the side. I'm at fault because I continuously, but don't you, but don't, but isn't this cool? This is awesome. Like, but don't you? And instead of just saying, you know what? Listen, this isn't working.
Right.
This pattern that we're in is so unhealthy, and I assure you I am the first to hold myself accountable of I was in the unhelpful pattern because I continuously said, but don't you, but isn't this, but
Mm.
don't you want to, but
Yeah.
isn't this fun, aren't I cool and dynamic?
Mm.
And then it got to a point of like, no, I know that I'm cool and dynamic, and I retract my light from you. You no longer get my ray of sunshine. I
Yeah.
will no longer sparkle around you
Mm.
because clearly you don't want it.
Right. Yeah.
So for me,
Mm.
part of my self care is knowing my boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
having the uncomfortable conversations,
Mm-hmm.
really going with this is my truth.
Yeah.
I'm not going to shy away from my truth. If you don't want this, okay, that's actually a win for me because you're telling me that you are not the person to connect with me.
Yeah.
I don't view my time with my ex-husband as a waste of time. I view it as me being really stubborn to learn a lesson. I, I
Bravo.
know.
Bravo. Yeah. That's
And the way things ended were fucked up. Let's be real. Like that was a little bit fucked up. What happened and the way that it went down was fucked up. And thank you for showing me that you're not a person that I can trust. Great. Moving on.
for sure. And you know what? That's such empowerment to recognize like your part and then reassess like what do I need in this dynamic? And if it's to leave, then it's to leave. If it's to talk it through, if the other person's willing to talk it through, then cool.
Right.
But what am I doing here in this dynamic that needs to shift? Because
Yeah.
I'm getting all of these signs that it's not working for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And for you, you finally reached the point where your inner truth was screaming at you.
Yes, it was.
You could no longer ignore it.
Mm-mm.
And you finally listened. And how do you feel now when you're listening to your inner truth?
It feels so good. Like like I feel it in my body, even just right now thinking about it. Like I just feel light and uh like before it was like I want to hide. And now it's like I get this like image of me on top of like a mountain, like just singing at the top of my lungs, like my favorite
Yeah.
song or something. Like it feels like that being in my
Yeah.
truth. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And you and I are both so similar that when we hold our truth in,
Yeah.
it is so uncomfortable, it is so painful. Like I was holding in my truth of expressing my feelings to somebody for like far too long. And as soon as I did, called them up and told them the truth, like, listen, this is where I'm at. I don't know how to navigate this. Like, and of course, like they're holding space for me in whatever way that they can. still sort of like alluding to things, but yet not. It's an interesting dance. It's an interesting conversation. But at least I spoke it. At least I, true Leo form, put my heart on the table and I was like, there you go. Like, if that doesn't work for you, that's fine. That's fine. But I can go through my day knowing that at least I spoke my truth.
Yes. Yeah.
At least I spoke it.
Yeah, there's something really powerful about that of like, and the process of detaching from the outcome and having the focus be on,
Yeah.
oh, I said my truth and that feels really good. Maybe I didn't get the outcome that I wanted, but I did get like being me more, like a process of being me.
Yeah, I got the outcome that I needed because
Yep.
I still continued to show up for myself and I kept myself, as I typically do, in accountability of why am I showing
Yes.
up continuously?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Really, what's my motivation here?
Right.
And anytime my motivation to show up got skewed a bit, like I just wouldn't go.
Yeah.
So, and I know that I'm being very vague and I'm being vague on purpose, but for me, it was like, okay, great. What's really my reason for showing up? Like, let me keep my
Right.
perspective and yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's super important. Yeah, I think the theme there is staying connected to what's important inside of that, right? Like what's important inside of each, and it's also nuanced, but like at the core of it, like each time you show up, like how do you really want to show up in your integrity,
Yeah.
you know?
I would much rather show up in my truth and in my integrity and be honest. And
Same.
yeah, I don't like hiding how I feel. I don't like hiding my inner truth. It doesn't mean that I like, create a billboard. Like,
Right. Right. The other extreme.
right. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I am an open book in the sense of like, no, I talk about what I'm learning. And the other end of that is like, is vulnerability hangover.
Mm.
And, since we started this podcast, clearly I've been very open
Yeah.
and very transparent. And there has been a part of me that is like, oh my God, am I saying too much?
Yeah.
Am I being way too open? I mean, like to me, I'm just having a conversation with one of my best friends and we just happen to be recording it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then we're sharing it on social media and people are
Yeah.
listening.
Yes.
Oh yeah, cool. Huh.
Yeah. How does that feel now from last episode?
I mean, I really I forgot how we ended the conversation. And when I re-listened to it, I was like, oh, I went there. I really like, oh, I
You were so
really,
in it. Yeah.
I really opened up. Shit. Um, it's so much of me. I've always been that way though. Like I've
Yeah.
always made like even in studio art, like I was making art about like the deepest rooted trauma and then getting up in front of people and talking about it. Like
Yeah.
and then going back to the art and reworking it and like maybe this material would articulate this concept a little bit stronger, like and then going up and talking about it, right? So I've had a lot of practice being able to do that and then diving into theater and actually using your own emotional memory to express what the character is going through. Like yeah, then the same thing happens, but it's just in a deeper level.
Yeah.
And then when you're actually a published author articulating those things and then having a podcast and being very open emotionally and articulating your stories. It's, yeah. Monday and Tuesday was tough
Yeah.
in the sense of like, maybe I shouldn't have said those things. Maybe I shouldn't have been so open. But then there was the other part of me was like, you know what? At least my truth is out there and, motherfuckers should have been nicer to me. Anybody, no, I'm serious, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
anybody is like a
Love it.
little bit, they probably, if anybody is perturbed or annoyed or frustrated or embarrassed or angry with me because of how I've articulated something, like, you know what? Maybe you should have been nicer to me.
Mhm. Yeah.
Maybe you should have actually had a conversation with me to find out where I actually was
Mhm.
versus where you thought I was,
Mhm.
especially with the TBI, especially with the TBI.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Like your perception of me versus where I actually was, two very different things.
Mm.
So how do I feel now in this moment? Maybe you should have been nicer.
Mm. Yeah.
Because I'm coming to the table with my truth and I'm saying this is my truth. And I'm not gonna hide it. I'm not gonna allow you to shove me to the side. I'm gonna say this is my truth. And if it's not for you, cool. Move
Yeah.
to the other table. I'm not moving.
Right. Yeah.
How do you feel about it? How do you feel about being on display?
Yeah, I can resonate with what you were saying. Like, I mean, I just talked about the molestation and I've never talked about that other than in therapy and with close friends. And actually I've disclosed it to clients as like examples
Right. Yeah.
um or as modeling. I had a moment, I'll just be like super transparent. When I was saying it, I had this moment of like, oh fuck. I just said that. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, it feels very vulnerable to share that piece. And like you were saying, um, it's it's important to express yourself and also as leaders, which we are,
Yeah.
and in the healing psychology realms,
Yeah.
it's so important to talk about these things. And so it's really good that I said it because
Yeah.
I know just like episode 2 last week, people did resonate with what you said. I
Yeah.
received messages about that.
Yeah.
And I'm 1,000% positive that people are gonna respond well to this too and resonate with what you and I disclosed. Because unfortunately, I think the statistics are something like 1 in 2 women experience some sort of sexual abuse.
Yeah.
1 in 3 men experience some sort of sexual abuse. I could be off on that statistic, but I'm pretty sure that's the most recent.
Yeah. It's high.
Yeah. So a lot of people know what it's like to be in that
Yeah.
and the aftermath of it. And so if we can bring more awareness to that and share our experiences and how we've moved through things and how things still affect us, then fuck yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, should we close it out?
Okay.
Did you have any other thoughts that you wanted to dive into? No?
I think so.
Okay. Cool. Well, thank you everybody for listening. We do have a free virtual workshop coming up on May 3rd
Mhm.
from 11 to 12 p.m.
Central.
Central, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Central. And then we start a virtual series. It is 6 sessions. That starts on May 5th, 6th. I think it's 6.
Okay.
May 6th. 6 sessions, May 6th. And it's gonna be a package deal. The total is $350. And we will be doing an in-person series on May 17th. Um, so if you're interested in checking out our virtual series, virtual workshop, free virtual workshop is going to be a great way to check that out, get a little taste of what we do. And then yeah, if you have any questions, please do DM us. Lindsay, any last thoughts?
Nope.
Okay. Great conversation.